So today, this is what we'll be covering. We'll be covering some concepts, understanding what's happening, noticing, and our 4-step process, perception and acceptance, and then how meditation is supposed to work, a morning process, and then we'll experiment with a little bit of meditation together, okay? For those of you who don't know me, my name is Paul C. Tiarina. I am a nutritional therapist, lifestyle and performance coach. I basically teach people how to eat real food, how to sleep, how to meditate, and I mean, just about everything else you could possibly imagine for health, because really what's happening is I am trying to optimize every aspect of my life. And as I perfect these different areas, then I share the information that I have with all my people and my clients and then corporate groups like yourself. So, and I just want to say also, I'm very proud of all my ancestral health certifications and education. We've been here in Vegas since 2011, doing group progressions for a really long time. We've done talks all over the city, corporate accounts, Whole Foods, natural, all the health food stores, natural grocers, Sprouts, and we just have a really good presence, really good reviews. So I'm only bringing this stuff up because sometimes when I'm attending something, I want to know that there's some validity to who I'm listening to, right? But just like with my nutrition stuff, you can get like a million certifications and degrees and PhDs, and it could mean the wrong thing. I mean, it could be the completely wrong thing. So a lot of what I teach is born out of experience. Like for 10 years, I've been tinkering with everything that we're going to talk about here today. It constantly evolves. By the way, I am not claiming to be self-righteous, and I am not claiming to be perfect. I am a human being that works on this stuff every single day. And because I work on it every day and I teach it to clients every day and I do these kind of talks and I get feedback and questions, it continues to evolve. So I'm a good teacher for this because I not only have a really good understanding of it, but I put it into practice. And as I'm putting it into practice and working with my clients, this process, these concepts, the way that we do things just continually evolves, okay? Some of the people that I've learned from a lot, I've done a lot of retreats, I've done a lot of meditation certifications, but and I really at this point understand what it is that we're trying to do, and I understand what some of the greatest teachers are trying to do. Some of my favorites are Charlotte Jogobek, who passed away I think a couple of years ago. Loved a lot of her teachings. Some of you may be familiar with Sam Harris. He has a really kind of popular podcast, but a really good application too for meditation. I love Pema Chodron and all her different work. Thich Nhat Hanh, I forgot to put up here. I love Thich Nhat Hanh. So, what we're going to learn today is a blend of Western and Eastern, okay? So let's just start by talking about why we might want to consider something like meditation and mindfulness. So, as we mentioned in our nutrition talks and other talks, like this is about being happy. And this is about living the life that we're meant to live. And we need something like meditation and mindfulness in this crazy world that we're in. We truly believe and understand that when you find health, you find yourself. And it doesn't matter what your goals are. If you have a career goal, financial goal, relationship goal, fitness goal, performance goal, you name it. If you don't have health, you don't have a whole lot. And it's going to, at some point, be a major issue for you. But if you have health, then everything else gets better because you show up to life completely different. If you have health, then all those goals are going to be easier to achieve. And maybe you figure out that maybe those goals aren't so important to you because you found this thing that's really, really beautiful and it makes everything about life great. I'm living the dream because I'm optimizing my health and I'm trying to share my message with other people. But now that I know what I need to do to be healthy, I could do anything and be happy. I could be a lawn guy. I could wash dishes. I could be a janitor. Not that there's anything wrong with those things, but knowing what I know to do to be healthy, as long as I had access to real food and I had access to a workout and I could sit and meditate every day, I think I could be happy doing anything. I really could. That's the magic of health, okay? We believe that to find health, we have all these different foundations, and this is stuff that we work with and we teach and we offer in all our different programs. And our vision for someone going through a year would be to learn real food with us, to learn how to sleep and optimize their sleep, and then have a fitness program in place. And then once you have those things in place, you work on meditation, mindfulness, and whatever you want to call the stuff that we're going to talk about today. Maybe you call it super consciousness, okay? And it's literally, truly like being a part of a Jedi Council. It's like your life is on a different level. If you get your food figured out and your sleep figured out and you have some kind of an exercise program, that by itself, your life will completely change in ways that you really can't even comprehend. But then you throw in meditation and mindfulness, and it's literally like being a part of just a secret little group, and you're just very awake, very aware. We call this process an awakening, because you see things and you realize things that you didn't see and realize before. And I see it happen all the time with my clients. They get the food and stuff figured out, they feel great. All of a sudden they're like, I'm not happy. Like I'm realizing now, like I'm not happy where I'm at with certain things, and then you start to meditate and practice mindfulness, and then you have the ability to change those things. So this is really, really powerful stuff. I believe that being healthy and feeling amazing is our default. It's the way that we're meant to be. And the problem is that we just have this modern world, and we have conflicting information and misinformation, and we need something like meditation and mindfulness, because there's so much chaos in this modern world versus I can imagine what it was like for our ancestors 50,000, 100,000, 300,000 years ago. They didn't deal with these modern stressors. So we do need something like that, even though being healthy and feeling amazing is our default. Okay. So again, why consider something like meditation and mindfulness? We're going to go through what I consider to be our biggest problem. Let me just tab over, make sure we don't have any issues. All right, cool. Do we have any questions? All right. So let's go through this. All right, so the first concept I'd like to share is just, I want us to understand what it is that's happening, why we might need something like meditation and mindfulness in the first place. So most of us are not happy most of the time, or a lot of the time, okay? And when I share this with some people, some clients and some groups, I get some pushback. I get people that get really defensive, because their attitude is like, well, I am happy. Like, how dare you say that? Like, I am happy. And I'm not saying that we're walking around depressed all the time, although some people might be. What I'm saying is that if you're really able to honestly, objectively look at your feelings and your thought patterns, the majority of us are not happy a lot of the time. We have these little moments of happiness. And in between those moments of happiness, we have a lot of anxiety and anticipation and dissatisfaction and looking for the next thing. And it's just, we have moments of happiness. Maybe our life is really good, but in between that, there's just a lot of like being triggered and critical mind and judgmental mind and worst case scenario thinking. And again, maybe it's not dramatic or huge, and although sometimes it is, the reality is that we're in our heads a lot. And if you can acknowledge that or agree with that to some degree, and I know that we're all going to fall different on that spectrum, then the cause for that is because of the mind. Like we think too much. We're thinking all the time. From the time that we get up to the time we go to bed, there's not a moment that we're not thinking about something, unless you have a meditation practice. And if you were to watch your mind on a movie recorder, you would know this to be true. Like if you could watch yesterday's mind on a movie, you would see that from the time you woke up, there was not a moment that you weren't thinking about something. And the majority of that is not stuff that has anything to do with what's in front of us. Although, again, we have these fleeting moments of focus and pure connectivity. A lot of that is anticipation of the future, brooding over the past, getting triggered by this or that, news, text message, Facebook post, Instagram post, thinking, a memory or something along those lines. And we're really, really not very present, okay? So the reason that a lot of us are not happy a lot of the time is because we are habituated to thinking. And what I mean by that is, from the time we could understand language, we were talking to ourselves. You think about it as little kids, and even when you watch little kids, they start to understand adults, and they're automatically talking to themselves. When they're not around conversation, they're off playing make-believe and toy soldiers and Barbies and dolls and all that kind of stuff, and they're talking to themselves, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. What I'm saying is this is when we started to cultivate this capacity and this habit of talking to ourselves. So then as we get older, that becomes more of a problem, because we're talking more and more and more to ourselves. And then we start to have these conversations in our mind that just, they don't jive with reality. Conversations about what other people are saying and thinking, and perceptions and anticipations and things that really have nothing to do with the present moment. Okay. So this habituation to thinking means we're thinking all the time. We're thinking when we should be focused on something else. Again, focused on my computer. How many times do I have this urge to check my phone or to tab over to Google or Amazon or something like that, right? We're thinking when we could be enjoying something in the present moment. Happens all the time. Check in with yourself. Like, I am at the dog park a lot of afternoons. It's a beautiful day. The sun is setting, and I'm out there with my dogs and my girlfriend. And chances are I'm not completely there, because what am I thinking about? I'm thinking about, we got to hurry up and get back. We got to make dinner. We got to get to bed at a certain time. I got this going on tomorrow, or maybe I have something on my mind from something I haven't previously, right? I may be slightly enjoying the moment. If I'm notice that I'm distracted, I can come back to the moment. But a lot of that is not being completely there. And a lot of us are not comfortable in space. What I mean by space is a lot of us are not comfortable not doing anything, because we're so driven and so focused on getting things done. I think most people have a really hard time imagining coming home and sitting at the dining room table with no music, no television, and not doing anything for 30 minutes and just sitting there. Unheard of, you know? I think most people have a hard time not filling the space with someone else with conversation. Let's say that I'm sitting on a park bench and somebody that I know comes and sit next to me. Automatically, you're starting conversation. You're forcing conversation in a lot of situations. You're forcing something to fill the void or the space there, right? So a lot of us are very uncomfortable in space, and it's not our fault. It's just that we're habituated to thinking, and it lends itself to not being comfortable. And then we have this constant unease, meaning we're just never really satisfied, right? So we're like, you think this next thing's going to do it for you, and then you get it, and it's like, okay, it's fine. And then before you know it, you forgot about it, right? It could be an item, it could be a certification, it could be a goal. You know, it was, a lot of times people think meditation is going to be this silver bullet that's all of a sudden going to fix or change things. And it is. It's very powerful and profound, but I think you understand what I'm saying. This habituation to thinking causes a lot of problems for us. And if you combine that with expectations, what I mean by that is this modern world has put expectation on us that we've never had before. We have expectations to be a certain kind of person, have a job, have a career, have a certain kind of finance capacity, have a certain family life. And then these things are placed on us from parents and family members and friends and religion and social pressures and fitting in and celebrities and stars. And so we put expectations on ourselves and we put expectations on others, right? As an example, you know, like I grew up thinking I was going to do something for a career. And when I really thought about it, now that I'm older and I'm doing something that I truly enjoy, it wasn't my choice. Like, it was a choice that was kind of planted in me from society and my parents. And I think a lot of us here go, you got to grow up and have this kind of a job and have this kind of a house and have married and have kids. I got a vasectomy, you know, and like some people are just blown away that I'm deciding not to have kids, because why wouldn't you have kids, you know? So we just have a lot of these things and pressures put on us from, social pressures. Yeah, I think about when I was a kid, I was super happy and just like raised my hand at everything and just didn't care and mismatched my clothes. And at some point in middle school, I think it was, you know, I just remember all of a sudden it became important for me to fit in and have the same kind of shoes and I'd get made fun of if I did some of those things that I did when I was really happy-go-lucky and carefree, you know. So it's like we do a lot to ourselves and we do a lot to each other. And so if you combine that with expectations with this constant habituation of thinking, then what you'll see is that it just causes a lot of problems. I just lost Carrie. Let's see. Carrie. All right, Carrie, if you can call me back, I want to get you back on here. All right, so I hope this is making sense for a lot of us, okay? Okay, cool, awesome, great. I'll take these out. All right. So, and this is all said with a lot of compassion. You know, again, this is self-reflection as I'm understanding all this kind of stuff. So the problem that we have, the reason that we're not happy more than we are, is because we have habituation to thinking and we have these expectations, and those two things combined equal suffering, and that's relative. Again, I'm not saying that we're walking around super depressed, although some of us may be sometimes. What I'm saying is there's this constant unease. And the way that we create happiness, we've already said, you make health a priority, understand and acknowledge what's happening, like we just talked about. It's this thing that's on autopilot all the time that causes a lot of the problems. Having a daily practice we'll talk about today. So having a time to yourself where you cultivate the skill of what we're going to talk about today, and then having some specific tools that you can use throughout your day, and then trying to find more space where you're engaged in life and you're not always going and going and going and working and having to-dos and obligations and things like that, okay? So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to understand some concepts. We're going to talk about a daily practice. We'll talk about meditation, and we'll talk about some mindfulness tools, all right? So the next thing we want to talk about is this idea or this concept of noticing, okay? So this is my term for noticing yourself thinking, okay? So I want us to do all wherever we're at right now, if we could do a little experiment. I want you to try to look for your next thought. I want you to see if you can notice your thinking. Let's try it right now. Now, if you're like me, when I went to look for a thought, there was no thought. All right, so let's try that again. I want you to, as soon as I tell you to, look for a thought. Try to notice your thinking. There's a void. It's super spacious and empty. I don't know how many of you guys find that fascinating, okay? But here's the thing. When we notice our thinking, when we notice thinking temporarily, we are completely present. So again, if you look for your thought right now, that's pure presence, void of thinking, okay? Temporarily, we've interrupted the thinking. So as I'm sitting here, say I'm brooding over something, I'm very upset, right? When I notice what I'm saying to myself or notice the upsetness, temporarily I'm not anymore. Now it may come right back, but in that moment of noticing, I'm not. And when we notice thinking, we have the ability to come back to the present moment, and we have the ability to reframe our thinking if necessary, if we happen to be thinking about something that's not serving us, okay? That's why the skill of noticing thinking is so powerful. And here's a really beneficial and important concept to understand. So at any given moment, we have a lot of information coming to us from a million different directions, okay? So in NLP, it's estimated billions of bits of information coming to us right now. And my conscious mind can only process a certain amount of that, right? So we have to put up filters that filter certain information into our experience. Now, this is what our perception is. Our perception is based on what we let into our experience from all this information that's coming at us. And by the way, this is happening at an unconscious level. Now, what dictates the filters is our self-talk and our thoughts. So our thoughts and our self-talk are creating filters that filter all that information into these usable bits of information that now we're creating our perception from. And our thoughts and self-talk also create search criteria for our mind or our non-conscious mind to look for evidence in our environment, okay? So as I'm saying things to myself, and I don't even realize that we're doing this, this is that constant thinking that we're talking about. As I'm saying things to myself, I'm creating filters that change my perception of the world. And as I'm saying things to myself, I'm also looking for evidence of what it is that I'm saying to myself. Okay, so as an example, I mean, I could go through a bunch of them, but just as an example, let's say that I want to go take a college course. And I talked to someone who was in the course, and for whatever reason, that person did not like the teacher at all. And this person just gives me the lowdown on the teacher. This teacher sucks. This teacher, like, you know, it's just like their personality, their attitude's horrible. Just wait till, you know, they just load me with that, right? Chances are, if I listen to that and I internalize it, when I go in, I'm going to have a bad experience because I'm going to be like, yeah, this guy was right. Like, this teacher's horrible. Like, you know, look at the way this teacher is and these things that this guy pointed out, like I'm noticing it, right? I could have the same teacher and a different person that had an amazing experience tell me, man, this teacher is so great and so unique and so caring and so thorough, and, you know, just fill me up with this information in a different direction. And when I go in, if I internalize that, I'm looking for that. And I'm like, oh yeah, this person's right. Yeah, this is a great teacher, right? This is what we're doing to ourselves all the time. We hear something, you know, we're talking to ourselves a certain way, and then we get information from our environment. We're like, yeah, see, I'm right. This way that I'm thinking is correct. Let's say that I've had a really bad experience in my life with a lot of bad relationships with women. And so in my mind, a lot of women are manipulative and deceitful, and they're just going to leave me at some point, right? Well, the first time that I'm in a relationship, the first time I have a little argument that gives me a hint of that possibility, I've just confirmed it to myself. And now it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And we do this to ourselves in every aspect of our life. And it's not our faults, okay? I always want to make that clear. It's not our faults, but the way that we talk to ourselves is creating our experience for sure. So this would be what I consider 4 steps to creating the life that you want. You have to cultivate the skill to notice yourself thinking. When you notice yourself thinking, you come back to the present moment, and then you can focus on what you want and focus on what you can do. And this 4-step process works in any situation, any time of day. Whether you're on a walk, at your computer, driving your car, in a meditation session, noticing your thinking, coming back to the present moment, asking yourself, what is it I really want? What is it I can do? If you're engaged with life and you're trying to do this a lot of the day, like, your life is going to completely change, okay? And we have plenty of stuff to help support this. So really, this noticing and coming back, this is what meditation is about. It's cultivating the skill to be able to do this noticing and coming back, okay? So I have a nice little handout. I'm going to send you a little group of handouts today that you can print this out, put it up on your fridge or around your office space, or, you know, just do what you want with it. You can change it into some other words or something, you know. All right, so just let me tab over here and just see if we have any questions, comments. All right, cool. We're doing good. All right, so let's go on to the next concept. Perception and acceptance. This is really useful. This is a quote from a book that is one of my favorite all-time books. It is, everything that happens to me is the best possible thing that can happen to me. I remember when I first heard this quote when I was reading this book, and initially I had this thought of, oh gosh, here we go. Here's another positive thinking book that is telling you to pretend that things are okay when they're not okay, when in reality you're not happy and things aren't okay, and you just had something horrible happen to you, right? But when you read the book, you really start to understand the truth of this statement. And let me go through an example here. So let's say that I am really into football and the Super Bowl is coming up, and me and my friends, a group of friends, get tickets to the Super Bowl. We're all cheering for the same team. And we're at the Super Bowl, and it's an amazing game, and our team wins. And we're all like super happy and excited, and we tailgate, and we're just like, this is the best thing that could happen to us, right? We're so excited. Now, when you think about it, was the football game good or bad? Did the football game contain happiness or non-happiness? No, it did not. It was just an event, because there was just as many people on the other side of that were rooting for the other team that had a bad experience, that had a bad outcome. So it truly is about your perception of the event that's happening. And there's a certain amount of life, it is what it is. A certain amount of life, you have events that happen, and it's our perception of those events that dictates our happiness or non-happiness, okay? And I understand there's some things that we deal with that are very difficult, like the passing of a loved one, a financial devastating financial blow, you know, like there's a certain reality to that is very challenging, but at some level, it is what it is. And then the question is, how do we perceive it and how do we move forward with it, okay? And by the way, some of your worst mistakes and worst things that could have possibly happened to you ended up being blessings in disguise because of how it changed your life and changed the course of your life and changed a lot of different things about you. So there are no wrong turns. There are only new turns, because every decision is either moving you towards what you think you want, or it's giving you some information, or changing you in a way that is going to get you what you want, as long as your perception is that. And there's plenty of people that have made the gravest of mistakes and have made a life and a living out of communicating the lessons learned from that gravest mistake, and that has impacted a lot of people. I'm thinking about people that are in prison and committed like some just horrendous crimes that have turned their life into a positive message. And I know that's an extreme example, but my point here is that we are where we are, all of us, because of everything that's happened in our past and every decision. And I can look back in hindsight and say, oh yes, everything led me to this point. Well, I mean, I guess you could look at it like that. I mean, that's true, but really what it is that you're just doing the best you can in every moment. And sometimes you make some what you would consider to be just really horrible decisions and mistakes, but regardless, you're still where you're at. I am here where I'm at doing this nutritional therapy thing because I was 275 pounds, high blood pressure, pre-diabetic, a drug addict, you know, and I just had all kinds of different issues. And I would not be here if it was not because of that. So There are no such wrong thing as wrong turns, only new turns. We just have to understand that our self-talk and our thoughts are the things that change our filters, and they also give us the search criteria of what we're looking for. So the goal then is to notice our thinking, okay? So then the question is, how do we cultivate this skill? And the skill of noticing our thinking. And that's where this concept of meditation comes in, okay? So let me just take a moment and tab over and see if we have any questions or comments. No, we're doing good. If you guys have a question, feel free to post it down here in the questions little button there. All right, cool. So now let's just talk about meditation and what it is, what it truly is, okay? I've learned from a lot of different methodologies, and I understand what we're trying to do now with meditation. All right, so let's talk about what meditation is not. Meditation is not religious, okay? So I remember many times early on when I was teaching meditation to some large groups, I would have someone raise their hand and just be like, hey, you know what? Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior, so I don't believe in this stuff, you know? And I'm like, this has nothing to do with that, okay? This is not religious based. It's not denominational. It is a skill. It is like a mental workout. It's like going to the gym for your mind. You're cultivating a skill, and that's all it is. And in fact, if you are religious or spiritual, this is going to enhance your religious or spiritual experience. Okay, so this is not Buddhist or we're not worshiping anything. We're cultivating a skill. That's all this is. Okay. Meditation is not about trying to think or not think or clear your mind. So a lot of people think that meditation is about sitting down and just not thinking. Well, I dare you to sit down and not think, because it's impossible. Your mind thinks like the heart beats. You cannot stop your mind from thinking. What you can do and what you want is to notice the thinking, because as we've already mentioned, in the noticing, temporarily or not, and then you have a chance to do something with it. Okay, so the goal is not to not think. Also, this this is a good point. When we try to meditate, a lot of beginners, they feel like they're not doing it right because they think a lot when they meditate. The mind thinks like the heart beats. All right, you're not doing it wrong. You just want to notice the thinking. That's it. It's not about feeling bliss or ecstasy. It's not about sitting there and becoming enlightened. It's not about, like, if I meditate for 3 years or 5 years or 10 years, I'm going to become this enlightened person, and the clouds are going to open up and shine down on me, and I'm going to start getting all this good luck and stuff like that, right? I mean, your luck does change because you're just changing the way that you look at your world, but that's not what this is about. And it's not about thinking about something. So if I'm sitting down and meditating, and then in my meditation, I'm deliberately trying to think about things that I want and my goals and envisioning and affirmations, those things are so useful, but that's not what meditation is. Now you're doing some envisioning. And that brings up another good point too. There's a lot of meditation out there that's not really meditation like what we're talking about today. It's guided meditations, which is really envisioning. So if I'm listening to meditation, a sleep meditation, and the speaker is saying, hey, imagine yourself walking down a beach and your feet are connected with the earth and you have some light shining up through your feet, and like, that's all great and beautiful, and it may be useful for sleep, but that's not cultivating the skill that we're talking about today. Okay. So, and not knocking any of those things either. There's just a lot of things out there. If we want to cultivate the skill of noticing thinking so that we can impact our lives and impact the way that we perceive the world and change our self-talk and all that kind of stuff, then we have to do this the way that we're talking about today. Okay. Meditation is a mental workout. So just like I go to the gym to strengthen my capacity to do certain things, let's say I go to the gym and I'm doing some bicep curls. Every repetition of a bicep curl is strengthening my capacity to do a bicep. When I go into a meditation session, every time I notice my thinking and I come back to my focus, I've just completed a repetition of strengthening my capacity to notice my thinking and come back to the present moment. So meditation is all about having a focus, noticing yourself lost or talking to yourself or off in some fairy tale. And as soon as you notice that, you just gently come back to whatever the focus is that you're focused on. All right. So what happens is this, because this is literally practicing awareness and concentration, you're enhancing those skills. You're enhancing awareness and concentration and persistence and focus and noticing, because that's exactly what you're doing in the moment, right? But you're also starting to open yourself up to more creativity, more inspiration, more epiphanies. Because when you think about it, a lot of our greatest ideas do not come when we're sitting there forcing thinking. Think about like some time where you've had like this problem and you're sitting there and you're just brooding over it and you're like, I'm gonna figure this freaking thing out, and you can't figure it out and you're stressing yourself out because you're sitting there thinking so much about it. And then you decide to take a break and go for a walk. What happens? In the middle of that walk, in some space, you have a drop in, you have an epiphany, you have a realization. Why? Because you gave that thinking a break and you allowed your non-conscious or your higher self or whatever you want to call that to do the thinking and processing on its own. You need some space. So with this space that we create through meditation and with this space that we create through noticing thinking, we create more creativity and inspiration and epiphanies because we're giving ourselves more space. And a lot of our thinking does not happen when we're consciously thinking, it's happening in the background, okay? So we're really enhancing focus, creativity, and this capacity to notice our thinking, all right? So check this out. This is, so when I'm sitting in a meditation session, I have a focus, all right? So let's just say that I'm focused on listening to sounds, all right? I'm just listening to traffic. So I'm present listening. Then I start to talk to myself. Totally normal, totally fine. I notice myself talking to myself. This is cultivating the skill of noticing talking to myself, right? Noticing thinking. So I've just done that. Then I deliberately come back and re-listen to the traffic. Now I've cultivated the capacity to come back to the present moment. It's a 1-2 little step. Notice thinking, come back to your focus. That's cultivating the skill to notice thinking and come back to the present moment. Okay, it's very, very simple. So there's a few ways that I recommend meditating until you get really, really comfortable with it, and then you can introduce a couple of other things. But very simple, accessible, anywhere, anytime. Listening to sounds in the environment, right? Because in the listening, there's only listening. Feeling the body, because when you feel the body, in the feeling, there's only feeling. There is no thinking temporarily. And then focusing on the breath, all right? Connecting with the breath, because in the breathing, there's only breathing temporarily. All right, we'll go through an example of each one of these. Now, there are also mantra-based meditations like, oh crap, what the heck is that one? We just talked about it the other day. Not insight meditation. It'll come to me, but I went through Deepak Chopra's primordial sound meditation. Whatever. So anyway, mantra-based meditations can be useful. I don't like them as much as this because these are experiences in your present moment experience. And those others, you're repeating a word or a phrase or a statement to yourself over and over, which I feel like lends itself to a little bit more thinking and introspection. And that's not what we're trying to do here, okay? All right, so let's just try real quick. I want us to do this together. Let me just tab over, see if we have any questions or comments. No, not yet. Cool. All right, so I want us to try this together wherever you are right now. I want you to take a moment and I want you to, when I say 3, 2, 1, go, I want you to look for your thoughts. And if we're in a group, I would say you raise your hand as soon as you have a thought. But since we're not, what you can do is you can go ahead and raise your hand, all right? And I'm going to give us probably about 30 seconds or so to do this, all right? So when I say 3, 2, 1, go, keep your eyes open, by the way. Keep your eyes open. Just look straight ahead. Don't look at the screen or the phone or wherever you're using, listening to this from. Just look straight ahead. And when I say 3, 2, 1, go, look for your next thought. And when you do this, the attitude is like, I wonder if I can just catch it right when it comes up. It could be a picture, an image, a sentence, whatever. But as soon as it happens, I want to try to catch it, okay? 3, 2, 1, look for your next thought. All right, cool. So I had a thought relatively soon, but initially nothing, because why did we not have a thought? Like a lot of us probably experienced no thinking initially. Why? Because we had a focus. As soon as we introduced a focus, there's a temporary period of time where you're completely present, okay? And then, of course, your thinking was going to start at some point. So one way you could meditate is just to sit down and just practice noticing thinking and then looking for the next thought and looking for the next thought. So let's try that. Let's look for 3 thoughts in a row. So what we're going to do here is when I say 3, 2, 1, go, you're going to look for a thought, look for your next thought as soon as you notice it. Now, sometimes you may not notice it until you're off in some kind of conversation with yourself, and that's totally fine. But at some point, you'll notice that. So notice your first thought, and then look for your next one, notice it, look for your third one, notice it, and then you're done, okay? 3, 2, 1, go. All right, cool. Interesting, right? When you look for a thought that's not there, you notice it, kind of goes away. Look for your next one, pops up. Notice it, kind of goes away. Look for your next one, pops up. That's how meditation works, okay? Let's do something different here. This is one of our favorite to start with, is listening, okay? So I want us all to take a moment, and wherever we are right now, I want you to just stop and listen and see what sounds you have access to in your current moment experience. And again, keep your eyes open as you're doing this. Just listen for a few seconds here. See how many sounds you can pick out in your current moment experience. All right, now because I'm inside, I can hear the hum of my refrigerator. I can hear a fitness class going on in the background. If I was outside, I would normally hear traffic, maybe some wind, maybe some birds, maybe some trees, leaves or something like that. So, but also notice that when you truly listen, there's no thinking. Okay, so again, now I just want you to choose a sound out of your current experience. I just want you to truly listen to it for as long as you can until you start to think. Now, that openness that happens when you first truly listen, that space, that moment or that period of time void of thinking, that is what we're looking for. We're looking to come back to that openness that is created only from introducing a focus. And again, you cannot stop your mind from thinking. All you can do is introduce a focus, notice your thinking, which creates more space. So you can come back to your focus and create more space. And you just, for a sitting session, you're just bouncing back and forth between thinking, or sometimes you're gone, and then noticing that and coming back to whatever focuses you have in front of you. Okay. So listening is one of my favorite focuses to start with, and I love sitting outside and just listening to traffic, eyes open. I'm just there, very casual, listening to traffic. Eventually I start to talk to myself, and then eventually I notice it, and then I come back and listen to traffic again and create more space. Okay. Another great place, focus for the present moment to experiment with is going to be feeling the body. So feeling the body, there's a lot of different things that we can do here. But again, if I'm feeling the body, then I'm in the moment, right? Let's say I have a headache and I feel my headache. That's completely in the moment. If I feel the breeze on my skin, then that's completely in the moment. Temporarily, when I first feel it, there's no thinking involved, right? So that's kind of what we're trying to do. We're trying to learn how to connect with the body and feel the body. I usually recommend going through this little body scan. So if y'all want, I can just take us through a very abbreviated version of that. So again, if we're in a relatively undistracted environment, we can just, like right now, place our awareness in our feet and try to feel our feet. And if that's hard, you can feel the connection of the ground up against the feet. And if you're sitting down, you can feel the connection of the seat up against your butt. And then sometimes it's useful to go to moving parts of the body that are moving and easy to feel. So like my stomach is moving in and out as I breathe. So let's place our awareness there and feel the stomach move in and out as we breathe. And then I can come out to my hands. I always tell my clients, place your hands palms up in your lap. And then let's just feel the hands. We should easily feel the hands because we're always grabbing and touching things all day, right? Maybe think about coming out to your fingertips and feeling the fingertips and increasing the blood flow to your fingertips. Sometimes you can feel a heartbeat or a pulse. All right, I always like to experiment with the face. You can come up and feel the face. You can relax the face and relax the forehead and the brow and the muscles around the eyes. You can relax the lips, and you can just have a really relaxed face and then feel the face. Sometimes you can feel a pulse or a throbbing or a heartbeat in your face or your lips if you're really still. All right, so you can try feeling the body, feeling parts of the body, or connecting the whole body at once. If we connect everything from hands to feet to head and just try to feel. Sometimes if you're good at it, you can place your awareness inside your inner body and feel your whole body. And if you can't, you're trying to, which is still creating some space and thinking. You can also focus on external environmental factors like a slight breeze, If you can feel the sun, if you're warm or cold, you can feel temperature differences, and then finally, you can also focus on tension and tightness and soreness and areas of pain and discomfort. Okay. Now, again, as we're going through that, as we're feeling each body part, as we're trying to feel anything and everything, there's no thinking because our focus is feeling. But eventually you're going to talk to yourself, which is totally fine. And then when you notice yourself talking to yourself, you gently come back and refill the body. That would be another way to meditate. By the way, we've got that skill, or I cultivated that skill first from Eckhart Tolle's Practicing or The Power of Now, which is a great book. And then he's got a follow-up book to that, Practicing the Power of Now, which is it's like the cliff notes of the power of now, and I love it. He's the first guy that kind of introduced me to this concept of feeling the body. I read it years ago when I first started meditating. All right. And then finally, we've got the breath, a very traditional meditation focus. All right. So with the breath, you can just connect with the breath in whatever way makes sense for you. So again, with the eyes open, looking forward, I just want you to connect with the breath. Now, again, temporarily no thinking, right? Now we can also follow the breath. Follow the breath all the way in, turn around, point all the way out. We can experiment with feeling the breath at the nostrils and the nasal passage in the back of the throat. You can focus on the breath at the level of the stomach, like we did before, as the stomach moves in and out, the rise and fall associated with breathing. All right, so there's a lot of different little minute things we can do with the breath. I think the easiest one for most people is feeling the breath at the nostrils, nasal passage, and back of the throat. All right, but again, as we were connecting with each aspect of the breath, most of us should acknowledge we weren't thinking about anything because we had the focus of breathing. But eventually you're going to start to think about something to talk to yourself, which is totally fine. But then you just want to notice that and then be like, oh, there I go. And then come back and reconnect with the breath. So meditation is that simple. It's simply finding a focus. I recommend experimenting with those three and then just playing this little game as you're sitting there, noticing yourself thinking, coming back to the present moment. If I'm like trying to do a new workout program, let's say that I come to CrossFit for the first time ever. I don't know any of the movements, right? It's very uncomfortable and everything is very awkward and almost frustrating because I don't understand what I'm doing. But over time, if I keep showing up, everything gets comfortable. I'm very familiar with everything. As we first learn to sit, it's very new and very uncomfortable, and we're always questioning whether we're doing it right and if you're thinking too much and just all kinds of different things. But my biggest suggestion is just commit to a few minutes every day where you just sit down and you tinker with it. And if you do that every day, eventually it's going to start to make sense and click. All right. I'd say usually after about a week or a couple of weeks or something like that. But all right. So let's talk about how to incorporate this into a daily process. We have a process we call priming and practice, but I mean, you can call it whatever the heck you want. And I think a really solid flow for a process is going to be having some gratitude, whether you use a gratitude journal or you just think about things you're grateful for. All right. Gratitude is a state changer. It puts you in a more receptive mode. Like if you come into a meditation session and you're already kind of amped up from looking at some emails or something, if you start to think about things you're grateful for, it just kind of changes things a little bit, right? Then you want to set a timer for a certain amount of minutes to sit and just practice meditating, right? I like to call it meditation practice because it's practice for everyday life. We're practicing noticing the skill of thinking. So I set my timer. And then I put my timer behind me, by the way, because if I have it in front of me, I'm going to be tempted to see how much time I got left, right? Let's say I set it for 5 minutes, put it behind me, and then I'm just sitting there and I'm just playing that little game. I'm just like, if I choose listening, I'm listening. I notice myself lost in thought, and then I come back and listen again. Notice myself lost in thought, come back and listen again. Sometimes I hold on to some decent periods of space. Sometimes I have a lot of thoughts. It doesn't matter, right? So, and then when the timer goes off, I'm done. I've had my little practice session, my little mental workout. And then it's a really good time to just think about what you want in your life and think about what you want for your day. Most people don't ever think about what they want. They think about what's wrong. So if I sit down every morning and I have gratitude, I meditate, and then I think about what do I want for my life? What do I want for this day today? What do I have coming up? This morning, I thought about my clients I had coming up. I thought about you guys in this talk, and I could see and imagine and feel a really good experience, So if you do that every day, like that's a really, really solid little process. Okay. 3-step process. Now, what I recommend to cultivate the habit is just show up. What you want to do, number one, is find the time in your day that you can dedicate 15 or 20 minutes. Now, you're not going to meditate for 15 or 20 minutes starting out. I think that's too lofty of a goal, and I think a lot of people will get frustrated with it. But you do want an area of time that's about that long, so that in the future, if you want to increase your meditation time, you have the ability to do that, right? And everybody needs about 15 or 20 minutes to themselves every day. All right. We're talking about just sitting there and just being with yourself and being with your own mind. It's totally fine. All right. So think about now, like when in the day would you throw in a little practice session? Ideally, it's in the morning because you're starting the day with this, and it just adds a little bit of positivity to the day and it just feels good, right? But it doesn't have to be. I got plenty of clients and friends that meditate before they go to bed or at a lunch break or something like that. But just try to find a 15 or 20-minute window where you can just be by yourself and relatively undistracted, right? Then you want to find your special spot. So within that little time frame, you want to have an area that's your little special place that you can meditate most days. Now, sometimes you're not going to have access to it. Like when I'm traveling, I don't have my special little spot, and sometimes I'm just out and about. And I'm not. And it doesn't matter because you can do this anywhere, anytime. But it does help to have a little spot that feels good to you. I recommend having a spot that's outside, because when you're outside, it feels open. You have sounds you can listen to, traffic, birds, wind, planes, stuff like that, right? It just feels, to me, it feels more conducive to a meditation practice, but you can do it anywhere. When it was like just super cold or really rainy or something like that, I would meditate in my office, no problem, right? Sometimes, like I have clients that meditate in their car. My girlfriend meditates in the car before she goes into work. She drives to work. She has to start at 8. She gets there about 7:45, and she sits there with the doors closed, windows up, air on if she needs to, right? And she sits there and just sets a timer and goes through this process, right? That's a really good place, by the way, because you're kind of sealed in, right? So find a time, find a spot that feels really good. If you want to, you can adorn your spot with like little pictures, images, incense, essential oils, all that stuff kind of helps make it feel good and conducive, but you don't need that stuff, right? Um, and then we want to just show up every single freaking day. Every day. It needs to be like, if this feels like it needs to be a priority for you, then make it a priority, just like brushing your teeth. Okay. You just got to do it no matter what. Sometimes I get the craziness of the day catches me and I'm like, oh crap, I haven't. And I can find 5 minutes no matter what. Okay. So just show up. Just show up to your time and your spot. Set the timer. Try it. Experiment with it. I'm going to send you guys some resources, some guided meditations, but you can text me, you can call me, you can email me if you have questions. I'm telling you, in addition to real food and sleep and a little movement, there's nothing more important than this, because this is a skill we can all do no matter where we are or what's going on in our life. Okay. So just show up, practice some gratitude, set your timer for whatever time. I say in the beginning, do it for just 5 minutes, 5 minutes of listening, and just play the game. And then when you're done, whether you feel like you did it good or bad or right or wrong or whatever, it doesn't matter. Think about what you got going on for your day. Like, what do I want for my day? What do I want for my life? Daydream a little bit. It's okay. It's fun. It's exciting, right? And then you go about your day. And I'm telling you, if you do this every day, it's going to automatically show up in your life. You're going to automatically start to notice yourself not getting caught up so much, not being distracted, or you're going to notice yourself wanting to, check your phone or turn away from your work, or you'll notice yourself getting upset and triggered and critical mind and all these different things. And that happens automatically. It just starts to show up. And then you can also have an intention to notice it, and things really, really, really start to change for you. Okay. So then I want to talk about just a few little practical everyday little skills we can throw in the mix. What is the difference between meditation and mindfulness? Meditation is cultivating the skill of noticing your thinking. Again, I'm sitting and I have a focus. I notice myself talking to myself. Boom. That's one part of it. Come back to my focus. Let's say it's listening. That's the second part, right? I'm cultivating the skill to notice thinking and come back, and notice thinking and come back, right? So meditation is the practice session. Mindfulness is putting that practice into practice throughout the day. Right? So meditation is cultivating the skill. Mindfulness is putting that skill into practice as you're going throughout your everyday life. So again, this is our little 4-step process. I think it's so solid, tried and true. Notice your thinking. Come back to the present moment. Focus on what you want. Focus on what you can do. let's say that I get triggered and I'm really, I'm in a hole because I just like, I have an argument with my girlfriend. Doesn't happen that often, but like we all know relationships are some of our biggest teachers, right? I'm in this hole and I'm just like, at some point I can notice that. And then when I notice it, I'm like, oh, dang, there I go, man. And then I can ask myself, what do I really want? What do I want instead? What can I do right now? And then that may come back again and you have to do it again and do it again and do it again. But I'm telling you right now you have this little tool that you can use to work with anything in any situation. And those two questions, asking yourself, what do I want? What do I want instead of what I'm thinking about right now? What do I want instead? What can I do? Those two questions are some of the most freeing questions. You don't have to have an answer in the moment. Just asking the question opens things up. I'm telling you right now, it's a game changer, okay? So, here's some practical ways that we can implement the skill of meditation in mindfulness. So let's say that I am constantly thinking all the time. I'm always thinking, stressing myself out about it, right? What do I do? Well, because I've been sitting every day and practicing, I can notice my thinking. And all of a sudden, I'm not thinking so much anymore. Now it turns into, dang, there I go again. And I have less of it and less of it and less of it, right? What's another problem that contributes to a lot of this stress that we're feeling, right? Critical mind. What is critical mind? Critical mind is our instantaneous judgmental mind popping in. And I'm telling you right now, it's automatic. Like you can't help it, okay? Let's say that I am walking down the road and I see a guy driving by in a car with his window down, downing a Monster drink, which I think is horrible for you, right? Instantaneous critical mind. Like I have an instantaneous judgment about this person, right? That doesn't make me a bad person, I don't think, because it's just like, it comes out of nowhere, right? But what I can do is notice that. And then when I notice my critical mind, I can see myself in this other person. I was like that person one time. I didn't know that there was something not good about drinking a Red Bull or whatever, right? I, just like this person, wanted to be happy and feel good and didn't know there was another way. Like I can see myself in every single person out there, right? So sometimes I'm in the grocery store line, right? Somebody has a cart of stuff in front of me that I think is the most horrific, unhealthy food. Instantaneous, judgmental, critical mind. But I can have that conversation. I can see myself in this other person, and all of a sudden I brought some compassion in. Expectations. So when I put expectations on someone about the way I want them to do something and they don't do it, that can stress us out, right? Little things like, my girlfriend doesn't put the coffee grinder away, and I like for everything to be put away, right? I have an expectation of her to do things a certain way. So what can I do? I can just accept. This is who they are. This is how they are. It doesn't mean that you don't try to have conversations with people and say, this is how I feel. This is what I would like you to do. What do you want from me? Those are really good conversations to have. But in any given moment, you just have to accept someone for who they are, right? You have your own quirks too. You have your own issues and things that people probably have issues with, right? And we could take that expectation thing to anything. I mean, if I'm attending a seminar and I have an expectation for it to give me a certain amount of value or whatever, and it's not, then I derail myself, right, from getting anything out of it. And then I can notice that and say, you know what, I can accept this for what it is and try to get as much out of it as I can. Being triggered, all right? What we mean by being triggered is reading something, seeing something, hearing something that it just touches you in a negative way, right? Conversations are great places to notice triggers. Like I'm having a conversation with someone and all of a sudden they say something that doesn't jive with my beliefs, right? I don't say anything about it, but instantaneously I have this wall that goes up. Well, if I can notice myself getting triggered, I can assume the best in this other person in this situation. Same kind of deal, introducing some compassion. Like a lot of times, like I assume something from my girlfriend and what she said, or a text message or a phone call. And if I just assume the best and just be like, you know what, like, she didn't mean it the way that I'm taking it, or this person didn't mean what they said. They had no idea that that's important to me. It just changes it. It introduces some compassion. It changes the texture of it. A lot of us are guilty of always thinking about worst case scenario, meaning, you just like, out of nowhere, you think about like, what if I have a car wreck coming out of here today? What if someone hits me? Where did that come from? Sometimes I get up under the bar to do a heavy squat, and I'm like, what if I break my leg? Why would I think that, right? But it happens. We have these random things that come into our mind. I feel like they're very protective, but what we can do is notice it, right? Instead, I can just see myself driving home, getting out of the car and being nice and safe and happy and listening to some good music or something, you know? If I'm in here under the squat rack and under the bar and I notice that thought, I can reverse it and flip it and then just think best case scenario. No, I'm strong, confident, solid, you know, something along those lines, right? But the first step is this noticing the thinking. And when you notice, you can come back to the present moment. And then if you need to, you can reframe it and change your thinking, whatever that situation may be. So gratitude plus meditation plus envisioning transforms your life, and it cultivates the skill. Remember, we have a lot of information coming to us at any given moment. Our filters dictate our perception. What dictates our filters? Our self-talk and our thoughts. And also our self-talk and thoughts dictate search criteria to look for more evidence of what it is we're saying to ourselves. So we have to be very careful about what it is we're saying to ourselves. And if we can notice ourselves talking to ourselves, we have a chance to work with it. And that's what we're trying to do with this skill of meditation. Okay? And I think that is about everything that I got. The last couple of things, I think I've mentioned this to y'all before. First of all, this is how to connect with me and us. If you want to take a screenshot of it, text me, call me, email me anytime. We have an amazing little online community. We are at an hour, so I'm not going to go through it, but I would love for you guys to join us in there. We talk about all health topics, all our videos, all our courses and everything are in there. We actually have some people that have signed up from Ignite, and we're super excited to see them in there. We just started a masterclass. If you use this QR code or take a screenshot, you can still join us. We had our first meeting this past weekend. It's an 8-week masterclass on nutrition. If you do the QR code here, you'll get a little video that shows you what it's all about. You can also just connect with us. If you QR code this, it'll take you through to a site where we'll show you all our different social media platforms. And then this is about our online community. If you take a little QR code screenshot of that, and I will send this out to you guys too. So my commitment to you guys is, by the way, our community website's at community.superhumantransformation.com. So let me just end the little screen share here. How do I do it? There we go. So my commitment to you guys is I'm going to send something out to Tammy, and it's going to have this PDF with a bunch of the stuff that we talked about today, some notes, some things you can print out and put up on your workstation at home on the fridge or something like that. And then also I'll have my contact information in there. So if you guys have any questions, like just try to put this stuff into practice. This video is going to it is recorded, so we'll get this to you guys too. So if you want to review any of it, just put it into practice. Show up every day. Just try 5 minutes. You can sit for yourself for 5 minutes every day, no matter what. And over time, I promise you'll feel more and more comfortable with it. If you have questions, comments, anything, just shoot it my way, because I'm living a life of service and I'm here to help, okay? Oh, we do have a question. Let's see what we got in here. What tips do you have? Okay, so Colby asks, what tips do you have for starting a new habit and making it a daily staple, like meditating in the morning? Well, first of all, just decide that you want to do it, and then, like I said, find the time, find the area that you're going to do it, like get that in your mind. I think it's really useful to pre-plan your day in your mind. I have an exercise I go through with my clients where we have a sheet of paper, we line out every hour of the day, and then we try to fit in certain health habits, and we say, all right, this is what my ideal day looks like. I get up at this time, I go on my solitary walk, I meditate, and then I do my coffee and get ready, or whatever the order of that is. If you can get that pre-planted in your mind, you're way more likely to commit and follow through with it. So definitely just imagining what that day looks like and where that kind of fits in. You can also throw in some things there like that reward you. So after I meditate every day, I'll allow myself to do this. So sometimes I like to have my coffee before it or while I'm meditating, but maybe that is your reward. It's like I am only going to have my coffee when I sit down and meditate, or only after I meditate, or I'm only going to allow myself to do something. So maybe building in some kind of reward with it. If you can also maybe find another habit that you already do, and you can just kind of habit stack this with it. Okay, so like for instance, I have a client that just won't meditate on his own at home, but he will meditate every time after he works out here. So his thing is he works out, and as soon as he's done working out, he goes out here and he sits for 5 minutes. And so he has stacked one habit that he knows he's going to do all the time with this other habit. So maybe pairing your habit with another habit that you already do, and so you're not really adding, you're just kind of tacking on a little bit to the end of it. Hope that's helpful. What else? Any other questions, you guys? All right, so I will get that follow-up stuff to Tammy. We will have a recorded video. We will have some handouts for you. Any comments, feedback, I welcome it. We're trying to make this better every time. Try it. If you have questions, comments, text me, call me, email me. Living a life of service, okay? I think that's all we got today.